It's pretty clear that a commitment to winning is an attribute any organization looks for in a leader. For Team USA basketball, they had to look no further than three-time gold medalist Christina Schwab to coach the Paralympic squad, fresh off a silver medal performance in Paris. Welcome, Christina.
Thanks for having me, Bob.
Hey, Christina, there's so much to talk about. But when I was kind of looking at you and checking out all your different attributes and the things you've done, it's amazing to me how long you've been involved in basketball and sport. It's been pretty much your entire life. You played ball since you were 11. And then, just on your way up the ladder as you were going into coaching at the U of I, where you got a great education, you coached under the great Mike Frogley. And then in 2016, you took over the Whitewater, Wisconsin team as head coach for 6 years. So, people, maybe they don't know exactly who you are, but boy, you've had a lot of basketball experience under your belt.
Yeah, I absolutely have. When I think about it, it's what, 33 years now. I don't feel like I am that old to have that much experience of playing or, with coaching. It's been about 20 now. So, I've had a lot of opportunities for this and a lot of great mentors along the way as well.
Hey, Christine, I do want to stick with basketball, but I also noticed that you've got a Boston Marathon win, which for anybody, that's a really coveted, amazing achievement. When you think back and you reflect on that time of breaking that tape in Boston, was that pretty special?
It really was, actually. I'm here in my office and I have actually a picture of breaking that tape. And sometimes when I think back to that, I'm like, wow, that seems like it was a big, like a different lifetime ago, right? But I did race pretty competitively for about 12 years as well. And so, that breaking that is probably one of the highlights of that racing career, and doing Peachtree was always one of my favorite races. And then being able to compete in 2012 on the track team that was one of the hardest things that I ever did, to make that team, especially as a T54 woman. And just that whole journey in racing was, it floors me that happened in my lifetime, actually.
Oh, I know. No, you've had a very storied career, but let's jump right back into basketball because that is the story of the moment. And wow, first time head coach, you go into Paris, you've got a tough task ahead of you. I mean, listen to the teams that you've got to go. Here's pool play: Netherlands, GB, Spain, Germany, Canada, USA, China. No team is a slouch there. You've got a tough battle in front of you. And in pool play, you draw Spain, you draw Germany, and then you draw the Netherlands. Bing, bang, boom. You had no rest there whatsoever. You had to jump right in.
Yeah, we definitely did. We had a new qualification process for this games, and they had cut it down just to, the top 8 teams in the world. And so we knew right off the bat that no matter who was in our pool, it was going to be tough. And so we had to really think about going game by game, right? And not staying on task. We would always say, well, it's just another day at the office, another opportunity for us to get better. And so, just opening up against tough teams. We knew we were going to, Germany is a tough team, and that was our first game. Opening up against them kind of set the stage for us to see, where we could go with this. And we had a really talented squad. So we did take it game by game, and I thought we were pretty successful coming out of those games.
So just generically talking about the games and the Paris experience, you've been around the Paralympics for a while in many capacities, athlete, head coach. What was it like in Paris? What I saw were substantial crowds. The stadiums were often packed. The auditoriums were often packed. Was it one of your highlight experiences as a Paralympic coach?
Absolutely. The only other games that I went to as a coach was Tokyo. I was an assistant coach on the men's side. And a lot of our athletes, that was their first Paralympic game experience on the women's side. And so we also had that in the back of our minds as a coaching staff, that we were going to be dealing with a lot of distractions. And so Paris, though, was amazing. We had pretty much sold out crowds every time. And we talked about the energy that was going to be in those arenas, how loud it was going to be. And as you know, wheelchair basketball is a team sport, so the communication's a big piece of that. And how are we going to navigate communicating with each other in a loud, packed arena, and just dealing with those distractions of nerves and things like that. So, but Paris did an amazing job, I thought, in, all of my games experience as an athlete or a coach. It was one of the most energetic experiences that I've had.
In a prior Detours interview that I picked up on, you said that this team was 12 deep and that you were essentially there managing talent. And boy, managing talent is not always an easy task, is it?
Oh, no, it is not an easy task. We definitely were 12 deep. Every person on that team could be put on the floor at any given point. And just, team chemistry is so important. And we tried to do that, and I thought we did that pretty well. But also, knowing that even if you aren't playing, you are still an integral part of that. The bench, we had a lot of energy on that bench that was supporting anybody that was on the floor at any given point too.
Oh, exactly. And let me talk a little bit about the squad. It was really packed. You had Exalt Gonzalez. She's a 4.0. She's coming up. She's young. She's playing at Alabama. You had Natalie Schneider, 4.5, five-time Paralympian. Courtney Ryan, 3.5. Becca Murray, five-time Paralympian. Rose Hollerman, four-time Paralympian. Lindsay Zerbrug. I mean, just really, truly a fairly deep and amazing team.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was an amazing team. I mean, I feel like we were pretty lucky to have that amount of talent on a team because, I've played on lots of teams and I don't know if I've ever seen the depth of talent that we've been on. I was playing on amazing teams, but to coach that level of talent, like you said before, that was our biggest challenge, I think, was managing who we were going to put on the floor. Because really, any of those women, if they're playing on any other team, they might play 40 minutes, right?
Undoubtedly.
Because they are that talented. And so recognizing that, they may not get 40 minutes, because if they do play a full 40 minutes, maybe we're not doing our job as a coaching staff.
Precisely. Maybe not, someone's not getting proper rest, or it's
Exactly.
There's so many complexities. So Christina, let's go ahead and walk through the quarterfinals, USA versus GB, 59-52. That was a pretty tough game. I remember watching that and thinking, oof, you guys were never on the ropes, but GB closed it. They had a couple of big hits right down there at the end of the game. Little tight, right?
Yeah. Little tight, little close for comfort, right? And kudos to GB. They played a really good game, right? And we always know that when teams come out, they want to beat the US. We always have a target on us. And they're a young, talented squad just like us. And I did say, prior to the games, that they actually match up pretty well with us because they have a lot of good guard play. Whereas most of the time in the European teams, you see a lot of their offense going through their bigs, where I think that, GB is it's spread out a little bit more. But they had they could sub with their bigs as well, and some of them came in on maybe limited minutes but big minutes and came in and shot at a really good tick. And thankfully we have worked on end game, and that's what it came down to in that game. I felt like we took a timeout, like we've been here before, we've practiced this, and we pulled that one out. But I know my heart rate was pretty high at the end of that game.
I'm sure it was. And then let's go on and finish setting this whole thing up, leading up to the final against Netherlands. China versus US, 50-47, another tough team. And once again, when you're dealing with China, as I expressed to, some of the racers, we don't get to know these people year in and year out. So another tough battle, 50-47. The Dutch come in, they play Canada, and they get the win 72-61. Not an easy win, but relatively easy win. And now you're matched up against the Dutch, the only team. You lose to the Netherlands in pool play, and now you got to face them again in the final.
Yeah. And we kind of predicted that we would see them again in the final, even though was this really talented pool of teams. The Dutch have they're on a streak of winning, and they're disciplined. They've been together. They have that advantage of being a more centralized program than we are. They get together a little bit more than we are, since the U.S. is such a big country, and us getting together about once every month. And so we knew we knew who we were going up against in that game because we played them. We played them over the summer a couple times as well, and we knew their strengths and things like that. And I thought that we had a good plan coming in. We played some really great defense, and then down the line we stopped hitting shots, and that's not like this team. It's not like our team to do that. We have, like you had talked about before, we've got some pretty celebrated scorers on this squad, and Rose Hollerman really stepped up and kind of she was hitting things, but it's tough to go against those twin towers of Bo Kramer and Mariska Beyer as well, and I thought that we played well in that game. We just didn't hit shots down the line.
Right. And so let's go ahead and break this game down a little bit. We'll take a couple minutes with this game. So ultimately at the end of the match, Netherlands prevails 63-49. Still maybe disappointing a little bit, but you still come out with a silver medal, which is huge. And speaking with Darlene Hunter leading into the games, she had already suggested, and Darlene's a homer, she loves you and the team. She said it's going to be tough. The Netherlands just going to be tough for another quad. And they may be tough again in 2028, but I know that's getting ahead of us. So let's go to the game. First quarter, 8-12. It's pretty close. Second quarter, 23-12. The gap is, they score a ton of points on you guys. Third quarter, 17-13. Fourth quarter, 15-12. So all along, they started to kind of pile up to a degree. Like you said, the Twin Towers, Berger and Kramer, they combined for 45 of the 63 points that the Dutch scored. Yeah,
and that was part of our game plan. We knew that they were going to be their top scorers, right? I think, you take small wins where you can too. Silver medal. I'm still proud of this team. We were a step ahead of where we were in Tokyo and still climbing. But, we had this defensive mindset, too, going into that one, that we wanted to make other people score. And we had seen that, what we call Mariska Mars, we had seen her score 30-plus points. Bo as well, right? So to keep them between 45 points, that's kind of a win. Maybe yeah. I'm just, being biased towards our team, but yeah, I don't know.
No, there's a whole lot to say about this, because when you start to look at the stats, it becomes really pretty obvious what it is that they're capable of. One of them being a 4.5 and the other one being a 4.0. Those are high value players. They sit tall. They are tall. They're very strong. You've even called them. They have a high level of discipline. They're a consistent nucleus. They've been playing together for years. They're a small country. They get to play together all the time.
Yes. Absolutely.
So, oh no, go ahead.
And like you watch a player like Mars too. Even if you have good position on her, she pushes through people. She's so strong. She did play here at UW Whitewater as well. I got to coach her for a semester while she finished up her undergraduate degree, and she's a super hard worker. So kudos to her on that too. And yeah, we just. We knew our team is short. We have a few tall players, but I don't think we're as tall as a lot of the rest of the world, to be honest with you. So we knew that our outside presence might have to be a little bit more, give a little bit more than our inside presence. And so, playing them was a tough matchup.
Right. And that leads us right into what I've really found as I started to look at the stats. It seemed to me the key to the game got to be the second chances, rebounds. Kramer picked up 12. Berger picks up 10. That's 22 more opportunities to put the ball in the basket.
Absolutely. We definitely had to be better on boxing out and chair position. We would play that first. They're really good at that too. Taking advantage of those second chance points. If we don't put a chair on someone and box them out, they're going to attack those boards. And so, we needed to do a better job of boxing them out, getting chair position when a shot went up. And I think you said it. That was a big deciding factor in that game.
So, I just want to give kudos to the team because I saw, Rose Hollerman played her heart out, 17 points, 37 minutes. That's a lot of time on the floor. She got 8 rebounds. Lindsay Zerbug picked up 9 points, 33 minutes on the court, a lot of time on the court. I'm looking at Gonzalez and I'm thinking, wow, you might have a real superstar on your hands here. She's a young kid. She's going to University of Alabama. She's getting that foundation now. She could be one of the stars of your future.
100%. I mean, she's 20 years old, and look at the impact that she made on our team in just her second games, right? I don't think she played a whole lot of minutes in Tokyo, but we tried to utilize her the best that we could in these games. And she came out, and I think she was like 4 for 5 shooting. She shoots at a pretty high rate, and she can create for herself and for her teammates. So yeah, I agree with you. I think we do have a superstar in the making here.
And just to follow up on that, Christina, the university programs, it all started with U of I. Then there's Wisconsin, Whitewater. There's Texas. There's Arizona. So many good universities are starting to clamor towards the adaptive athlete. I think this could be potentially the leveling of the playing field, so to speak. We're starting to cultivate talent from underneath and bringing them up younger.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is a big benefit to our USA women's wheelchair basketball program. We have this great pipeline of college athletes. So they're getting together and they're playing more and they're learning the fundamentals. And then just the progress that they can make throughout playing all throughout the year is really what is going to be something that maximizes our potential, I think, in this country.
Christina, I'm wondering, not having played a lot of basketball, but watched enough, I have a pretty good idea of what you're talking about here. But you were quoted as saying that the U.S. team is a fast team that presses. Can you kind of explain that a little bit so that people, to the naked eye, what's going on underneath there?
Yeah, so our team across the board, 12 across, was incredibly fast, right? And we have great chair skills. We didn't actually press a whole lot in the games in Paris this time because, it just depended on the game, right? And who we were facing up against. So we have the potential to be a full court pressing team. I think what that does is it takes away scoring opportunities because it wastes the clock, right? So if you're up court pressing, either you're going to get an 8-second backcourt violation, maybe create some turnovers, but ultimately, if they even get down to the other side of the court, you're going to have less time than 24 seconds to score. And we already know that 24 seconds to score is already hard enough in itself. So if we could take that time off the clock and waste some of that offensive opportunity, I think that that's going to be a benefit for this team.
You also talk about getting all the different styles of play to gel. You've got every team has someone who's high energy. They're always amped up, ready to go. And then you've got somebody who's all chilled out. And sometimes you got to pick that person up a little bit. But that's your job as coach, to bring those intangibles together and get everybody playing together.
Yeah, and sometimes that changes throughout the game of who has that high energy and who doesn't or needs to be picked up, right? And on this squad, we had a really good mix of that. I think like a Becca Murray is always cool, calm, and collected. And so she doesn't need to get amped up. If we got Becca amped up, then we're in trouble probably. Can take her out of her game. But Rose can kind of ride those waves where she's up and then most of the time she's pretty cool, calm, and collected. I think, like Courtney Ryan and Lindsay Zerbug are usually a spark for us. And even some of our low point players, Caitlin Eaton, you can hear her a mile away. She's one of those leaders on our floor. And Emily Oberst, who's constantly out there. Even if she's on the bench, you hear her supporting her teammates. And then our other team captain, Natalie Schneider, who's kind of just gelling everybody together, but also cool, calm, and collected. So yeah, it was our task to kind of figure out where to plug and play people.
With three decades of sport under your belt, you must have a pretty good idea about this. Sports is a combination of talent mixed with attitude. How much do you see the ratio being between the players that you've coached, their talent levels, and then what it is that you have to bring to the table as a coach to bring them to their maximum potential? Is a lot of the game about attitude, do you believe?
I think that that is a big factor in this, right? You have to have the right attitude to be playing high performance sport in general, right? You have to be willing to put in the work. And like I said before, in a decentralized program, you have to have those people that are kind of self-motivated, intrinsically motivated to get that talent, get to maximize their potential when they're training alone, and then bringing that together when we get together as a team. And sometimes, putting your own goals aside, especially in basketball, that's a team sport, it's more team than it is individual, right? And so like utilizing your strengths and your own attitudes to work together with other people. And then our job as coaches is to just kind of observe to see where we need to kind of intervene and bring those pieces together, I feel like. But we also had to have the same attitudes, right? And make sure that we brought whatever the team needed of us.
For sure. So here we go, LA 2028. It's hardly too early to start talking about this, where it's really 3 years and a couple of few months away, and boom, you're starting to select your team. What are the moves that Team USA is going to have to make? What are your expectations? Will there be new players? Kind of give us an insight as to what we might be looking at in a mere 4 years.
Yeah, so there's a lot of moving parts in these off years. Typically, at least with our NGB, we do a tryout every year, depending on what's happening in that year, because there's qualifiers for World Championships, then there's World Championships in 2026, and then it's all dependent on the qualification process too. This past quad, if you were top 4 at World Championships, then you got a spot for your zone, right? And then we had to go to Parapans and then qualify for Paris. So each and every year looks different, and so we will see what that looks like. Every quad the coaching staff has to reapply, and so it's kind of up to who's hiring who for the coaching staff. But then for the athletes, there are athletes that sometimes step away for short amounts of time. Some people retire after a Paralympic Games, right? And right now, I think everyone's still just kind of basking in what just happened in Paris, and they should be celebrating that. And then usually around the first of the year, or maybe even a little bit before, that's when you start applying for selection camps. And those first selection camps are a bigger group, right? So then you start to see the talent that's coming up from maybe even the junior division or the women's division, the college division. So it's usually like, maybe 40 athletes that come together that you break down to 20. Right? Those types of things. So it's almost a rebuilding right after a game. So by the time this comes around, there's going to be a lot that happens, and there might be a lot of moving pieces. I haven't seen any, for sure retirements coming out of this, but sometimes people have to take time off for mental health too, right? There is such a thing as Paralympic letdown. So
undoubtedly, there's just so much stress involved.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it'll be interesting to see, but I'm excited for LA. I'm excited to see who comes and who shows up and what those pieces look like. I think it is a short amount of time, but I think if we proved anything is that a lot of improvements can be made within a short amount of time, because the last quad was extended, and so this one was actually shortened. And I thought we made a lot of progress. So I think that, whoever are in those spaces, we should have a great showing for LA. And I think that the US can come out and surprise people again. If that's, if like the Dutch stay the same, I think we can come out and we've seen it, right? We've seen it for the last couple years. And so it'll be interesting to see what we look like by LA 28.
Well, Christina, you're a triple gold medalist yourself. Now you've got a silver medal as a coach. I anticipate there's no doubt that you'll be back unless something unbelievable happens. You did a great job.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for, coming in, giving us so much valuable insight and being so open.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate this.